What if Anakin Skywalker found Revan's Holocron? Let's start the story during the Clone War. Anakin was in his ship, returning home from a dangerous mission in the Outer Rim. He won the battle, but it had taken a toll on him. He was tired, and desperately wanted to return to Padme's arms. But as they were in hyperspace, he felt something through the Force. An energy, something called to him. He tried to ignore it, but it grew until he no longer could. He felt it speak to him, calling for Anakin to follow to its destination. Skywalker was curious. He contacted Admiral Yularen and told him he'd find a different way back to Coruscant. Yularen acknowledged, knowing far too well to question General Skywalker's way of doing things. Anakin waited until the time was right and exited hyperspace to see a blue-green planet in the distance. He felt the Force was coming from here as he entered the atmosphere and landed his ship. As he did this, he realized where he was, Tython, the birthplace of the Jedi. He learned everything about this place as a youngling, but had never traveled here himself. He landed his ship outside one of the Jedi temples, where he felt the Force coming from. He went inside and felt the connection grow stronger. He walked through the ancient corridors until he knew he was in the right place. He was in an empty room and felt the Force was coming from here, but there was nothing. But Skywalker knew the Force never made things easy. He closed his eyes and reached out until he sensed the secret compartment in the Force. He used the Force to pull away the stone to reveal what was hidden underneath, a red Sith holocron. Anakin couldn't believe it. A holocron like this in the Jedi Temple? But before Anakin could do anything, the holocron opened to reveal none other than Revan himself, asking who had come before him. Anakin told the holocron his name, and it stared intently at Skywalker. The holocron told Anakin his name was Revan, that he can sense Anakin's power and deems he is worthy of the knowledge from this holocron, as he can sense Anakin someone who has the power to affect the Force itself. Anakin was stunned. He knew of course who Revan was, every Jedi did, a famous Jedi who turned Sith and then back to Jedi again. Anakin took the holocron back to his ship and journeyed back to Coruscant. Anakin spends days studying the holocron at his home, learning Revan's philosophies from the man himself. He learned about the history of Revan's life, his journey in the light and dark sides of the Force, and then back to the light. Revan believed that true mastery of the Force requires understanding both the light and the dark, rejecting the extremes of both to find balance in the middle. Revan told Anakin that he should reject the Jedi Order's dogma and the Sith obsession with domination. Anakin initially had some pushback of these teachings. He was always taught the dark side was wrong, but Revan didn't speak about the dark side how the Jedi did. Revan didn't speak about domination, ruthlessness, or hatred, but rather passion, emotion, and converting these raw feelings into power. Revan told Anakin that in the thousands of years that have passed since his death, the Jedi Order has not changed. The Council's insistence on emotional suppression still holds the Jedi back. Instead, Revan taught Anakin that balance is through understanding both sides of the light and dark, which is the only way to lead oneself to true mastery. And he wanted to teach Anakin this. After weeks of these teachings, Anakin was convinced. This truly resonated with who Skywalker was as a person. His whole life as a Jedi, he was told he was wrong for using his passion, that his emotions were holding him back. But Revan taught Anakin that it was okay to use these emotions as long as he could control them. He told Skywalker that he let his fear lead his actions too much, his fear of loss, of losing the ones he loves. He tells Anakin these feelings are valid, but they dictate his entire life, and he needs to switch this around. They talk about Padme, and Revan tells Skywalker he had a wife once, the mother of his child, and his biggest regret was leaving them to find the Sith. Anakin tells Revan that he feels guilty for his marriage, that he knows it's against the Jedi code, but Revan tells Anakin that his love for Padme is a reflection of compassion, which is the deepest expression of the light side. Love does not lead to the dark side, fear does. The fear of loss, the fear of pain. Revan tells Anakin the Jedi taught him to feel nothing, and in doing so, made his heart an open wound. The ghost of Revan puts his hand on Anakin's shoulder and tells him he should not fear loss if he has the power to stop it. Anakin took Revan's holocron with him into every battle in the Clone War. In this time, Anakin started learning the dark side from Revan, and immediately, Skywalker felt a change. He felt as if he'd been set free from a cage the Jedi had created around him. Finally, he could use his anger, his passion in battle, to fight for the Republic. But it didn't corrupt him. It didn't take over his mind or change him like the Jedi had told him it would. And Revan told Anakin this was because he had the light side, the light to buffer the dark side, and vice versa. Through these teachings, Anakin was convinced that balance between light and dark, Revan's version of balance, was the only way forward, and he now had a new purpose in his life. Yes, he was the chosen one, and he would bring balance to the Force, not by defeating the Sith, but by saving the Jedi Order. A year passes, and Skywalker's power soared, far greater than in the original timeline. He was the hero of the Clone War, winning battle after battle for the Republic, and was widely recognized as the strongest Jedi of his generation, and perhaps any generation. He was powerful, cunning, and a great leader. Those who fought under him respected and adored him, as they knew their leader Anakin would put his life on the line to save theirs. His 501st Legion was the strongest of the clones, sent to fight the hardest and toughest battles with the lowest predicted success rate. But he always found an answer. But he always had an answer, and Anakin would always find a way. He learned much from Revan in the way of warfare, having fought in many wars himself. He taught Anakin that conflict reveals the truth of one's character, that a wise leader must be both warrior and philosopher, but most importantly, that victory at any cost is still defeat if you lose yourself. This was at the heart of Anakin's philosophy, as no matter how passionate, how eager he got for victory, he never let the dark side take over, as he had achieved balance. However, all of Anakin's teachings would be tested the day he came to save the Chancellor. "Do it," Anakin hears in his ear, after the Chancellor commands him to execute Dooku, the leader of the Separatists and a valuable prisoner. Dooku had killed many of his friends in the Jedi Order, and he definitely deserved to die, but Anakin couldn't help but hear Revan's teachings in his head. The moment you strike in anger, you become what you swore to destroy. Power without restraint is just another chain. Revan's voice echoes in Anakin's mind, and he decides to spare Dooku's life and bring him back to Coruscant alongside Obi-Wan and Palpatine. But shortly after he returns, he finds out something that will change his life. Padme Amidala, his wife, is pregnant with his child. But that night is also Anakin's true test, as he has nightmares of Padme dying in childbirth. He doesn't know what to do, similar dreams that he had of his mother that ended up coming true. He sneaks away into the meditation room in his house and asks Revan for guidance. Revan listened intently to Skywalker. He told Skywalker he is powerful and has the ability to see into the future with the Force, but the future is not set in stone. He believes the future Anakin sees is not the will of the Force, it is the shadow of the fear that Anakin has, that he sees death because he cannot yet accept loss. He must learn to let the vision pass through him, and its power over him will fade. Anakin left with these words, reassured, as he had continued to have faith in the balance he had achieved. Anakin knew that his own fear of loss was his biggest weakness. He had tried to learn his best to overcome this, and now would be the true test of whether he was able to do this. Over the following days, Palpatine started to manipulate Anakin, trying to edge him down the dark path. He started by nominating Anakin to be his representative on the Jedi Council, knowing Anakin wanted to be a Jedi Master, but knew the Council would deny him of this, and therefore increase his anger with the Council. Anakin was then assigned to spy on the Chancellor, a close friend and mentor, which further annoyed Anakin with the Council. But then later that night at the opera, Palpatine told Anakin about Darth Plagueis the Wise, the Sith Lord who could save the ones he cared about from dying, a power only known to the Sith. Anakin couldn't deny it. His nightmares of Padme were still bothering him, even after Revan's advice. And now there was a power in the dark side that could save her. He went to Revan about this, telling him about Plagueis the Wise, who tells Anakin he didn't know of a Darth Plagueis, and he must be after his time. But nonetheless, Revan tells Anakin to twist the Force to deny death is no gift, merely a bargain. Anakin may save another life, but only to surrender a piece of his own soul. Every life stolen from the current of the Force must be paid for, and it's always the one whose fear of loss will pay the price. He tells Anakin to journey further into the dark side. To learn this power would be a mistake. Anakin remained confident in his balance and put his fear aside as he's called into Palpatine's office. The moment of truth, when the Sith Lord revealed himself. Palpatine told Anakin that he is the only one who can save his wife Padme from certain death because he is the Sith Lord Darth Sidious, apprentice of Darth Plagueis. Anakin couldn't believe it. Palpatine was the one the Jedi had been looking for this entire time. He begged Anakin to join him, to let him save his wife, but Anakin stood firm. He believed in Revan and his teachings, and trusted that to forsake this balance, to give into the dark side, and to give into his fear completely would be his ruin. Anakin ignited his blade, and Palpatine did the same. Anakin declared he would never join him. He would never give in to the Sith, and Palpatine revealing himself now would be his greatest mistake. Anakin swipes his lightsaber at Palpatine's arm, who only reacts last second to block with his own, spins it off, which pushes Anakin back. They stare at each other intently, knowing this fight will determine the fate of the galaxy. Will years of planning and preparation prevail over prophecy? Anakin uses the Force to propel him forward as his lightsaber clashes with Sidious. The two send blows back and forth at amazing speeds. Anakin Force pushes Palpatine back against the wall, who ducks his head down like he's hurt, but he did this to lure Anakin in, who sent lightning at Skywalker mid-air, which connected and sent him soaring back. Anakin gets up as Palpatine sends more lightning, but Anakin blocks with his blade, absorbs it, and casts it aside. Palpatine ignites a second blade and rushes forward. Skywalker was on the defensive, a state he did not like, and Palpatine tried to use this to his advantage. He pressed forward, swiped at Anakin's left, who blocked with his lightsaber, and stabbed at his torso with the other. Palpatine thought he was about to connect, but at the last second, Anakin grabbed his wrist and deactivated the lightsaber. He pulls Palpatine's arms up, looked him directly in the eye, and headbutted Palpatine. The force of the blow should have sent Palpatine back, but Anakin still held onto him. Anakin attacked again, as Palpatine's vision momentarily went black as he was almost knocked unconscious. In that brief moment of darkness, Palpatine dropped his other lightsaber, and when his vision cleared, Anakin had sent a punch right at his jaw, but Palpatine ducked at the last moment. However, this was a ploy. He ducked right into a knee, which connected with Palpatine's jaw with bone-shattering intensity, as Palpatine's vision went completely black as he was knocked unconscious. Anakin put cuffs on Palpatine and smuggled him out of the office under a cloth unnoticed. He brought him straight to the Jedi Council chamber. The council was about to begin session as Anakin rushed in, sweating and breathing heavily with the fatigue of carrying the Chancellor. He put Palpatine down under the sheet and declared that he had found Sidious. He pulled the sheet away to reveal Chancellor Palpatine. The council gasped in shock, Windu asking Anakin what he has done, but Anakin chucked down the two lightsabers and told them Palpatine had these as Ki-Adi-Mundi ignited them to show the dark crimson weapons. Anakin detailed the fight they had, how Palpatine attempted to seduce him to the dark side to join him, but he resisted such advancements. Silence encompassed the room as everyone processed what had happened. Everyone looked over at Anakin. They could see the burn marks from lightning, the echoes of the dark side still coming off him and Palpatine. Yoda stepped forward, telling Anakin that he trusts him, and says with this, he has completed his role as the Chosen One. Over the following days, the council has to control the outrage of the Senate for arresting Palpatine, but they temporarily take over to ensure a peaceful transition, along with the help of the delegation of 2,000. Count Dooku, after seeing what Palpatine had attempted to do, to have Anakin execute him to start his descent into the dark side, caused him to lose faith in Palpatine and the Sith, as he realized he was merely a pawn in Palpatine's game. After convincing from the Jedi Council, he agreed to testify in the Senate against Palpatine, which helped the support for the Jedi in the Senate. The war was over. The Republic had won, after a swift surrender from the Separatist leaders. The Jedi Council was in session, and Anakin was called into the center by Yoda, who stood and declared that the Jedi and Republic owe Anakin a thanks that without him, who knows where the Jedi would stand. He really did complete his role as the Chosen One, and deserves the rank of Jedi Master. Anakin bowed and took his seat as the Jedi Master, the title and rank he had always wanted, but he knew this was not completely true. He hadn't completed his role, as he hadn't brought balance to the Jedi Order, and knew this would take time. He met with Ahsoka shortly after, and they discussed her rejoining the Jedi Order. Ahsoka had her doubts and reservations, particularly about the Council, but Anakin told her the truth, her true mission as the Chosen One, to bring balance to the Jedi Order. They discussed Revan's holocron for hours, and what he had learned from it, that the dark side is not the enemy, but rather the key to harmony in the Force and the only way to achieve balance. Ahsoka trusted Anakin more than anyone she knew, and spent weeks studying from Revan and learned about the dark side, until she too learned balance and decided to rejoin the Jedi Order to aid Anakin in his mission. Padme gave birth shortly after, and survived, in which Anakin knew she would, after his nightmares of her dying in childbirth stopped following Palpatine's capture. He was ecstatic, happier than he had ever been. He revealed the truth to Obi-Wan, who wasn't surprised about their marriage, but speechless about their twins. He was happy for them, but knew the dangers that could arise within the Order. Anakin next discussed Revan with Obi-Wan, specifically about how Anakin and Ahsoka had learned the dark side to achieve balance in the Force. Obi-Wan was skeptical, but Anakin told him to think back on the last year. All Anakin was able to achieve in the Force, the war, and eventually defeat the Sith, only because of the balance he had achieved. Kenobi couldn't deny this fact, and he sensed serenity in both Ahsoka and Anakin. Kenobi decided to give it a try and learn from Revan. Obi-Wan was surprised. Revan didn't preach domination, ruthlessness, and evil, but passion, and to use one's emotions for personal gain, but to not let them control you. Obi-Wan noticed a difference shortly after beginning his training. He was stronger, no doubt about it, as he journeyed towards balance. After a lengthy discussion between Obi-Wan and Anakin, they decided to take this to the Jedi Council. Anakin stood in the center, proclaiming to them all that he had a matter of utmost importance to discuss. He told them all the Jedi Order has been failing for one crucial reason, because they had not achieved balance in the Force. Murmurs scattered, but Anakin continued. He told them all that the Jedi's fear of the dark side was their weakness. Their fear of emotion caused the Jedi to be dogmatic and narrow-minded. To achieve true balance in the Force, one must be open to the dark side. Windu spoke up, telling Skywalker that the dark side is evil, that the Sith have used it for thousands of years to fuel their own selfish desires. But Anakin tells him that's only one path of the dark side, that there is another, focused on passion and emotion to achieve balance rather than purely power, a path in which he and Master Kenobi have learned. The murmurs were louder this time, many with disapproval. Yoda turned to Anakin, asking him who he learned this from, and Skywalker told them, Revan. He pulled the holocron of Revan out of his robes and opened it. The image of Revan revealed himself to the Jedi. He tells them all that the Council speak of balance, as if it were a scale to keep even, light on one side and dark on the other. But the Force is not merely a ledger of opposites. It's a living current, and when you divide oneself. The Jedi fear emotion, the Sith worship it, but they are both wrong. The light without shadow is blindness, the dark without light is chaos. Balance is not the absence of darkness, but the harmony between understanding and restraint. The dark side is only corruption when it rules you. The same passion that drives the Sith to conquer can drive a Jedi to protect. What matters is not which side you draw from, but why you draw from it. You claim the Jedi defeated the Sith, but you didn't. It was Skywalker, only because he had achieved balance in the Force, and he has taught it to other Jedi, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka. Revan asked the Council to let Anakin teach them all true balance in the Force like the Jedi of old, so the Jedi Order can be the true guardians of peace and justice around the galaxy. Revan disappeared, and there was silence. Windu spoke, saying that they cannot accept this. To learn the dark side would be the end of the Jedi Order. There were a few nods, but Plo Koon spoke, telling them all that Anakin had saved the Jedi through balance. Without the dark side, the Jedi would be no more. Sidious would have won. Saisi Tin spoke next, telling everyone he thinks Skywalker is right. The Jedi Order needs correction, and perhaps the Chosen One should lead them down this path. Anakin and Obi-Wan look at each other and smile, as they both know they have set the ball in motion, and there's no turning back now. The Jedi will learn the dark side, and will together achieve balance. Hey guys, don't miss out on our Halloween sale over at Fantasy Sabers. We're giving away a free negotiated deluxe saber with every order while stocks last.